Hi there, welcome to Island Fly Tarot. I'm going to do a tarot card reading for Gemini energy. And we're going to read it from a couple different perspectives because it's not a personal reading and there's all sorts of people in the world and they're Gemini energy. And some of those people are more immature. Some of those people are more mature. You know, life's about learning these lessons, and Gemini is about our dualistic nature, and we have our more about ourself and the world kind of nature, and we have our more hopeful and believing, loving nature. And you know, which one do we invest more time, energy, and effort into? Which one do we ignore? Which one do we invest in? And people are going to harness this energy differently depending on kind of the lessons they've learned. And High Vibe Gemini is about aligned with truth and love. And love is to be just and fair, and you're supposed to treat other people the way you like to be treated. And some people like to create the illusion that they're loving, but not really. They're not. It can be more about how it benefits them, or to indulge in it, or it makes practical and logical sense. So, anyway, that's how we're going to read it. Okay, we had some cards flip here. Oh, goodness. That's like 6 or 8. That's a lot. Make it more succinct. 1, 2, 3, 4. We all tap into Gemini energy. This might be something that right now people in Gemini energy or Gemini sun sign or people with significant Gemini placements in their chart might be dealing with, or big Gemini energy at the big picture. But we all tap into Gemini energy because it does have to do with our free will. Everybody's got free will. Everybody has their more worldly, immature, prideful, more about their own self-interest nature. Other shadowy ways of being in the world. And other people have tempered those things, and they are who they say they are. And other people just try to create an illusion about the type of person they are. Okay, so kind of interesting. I view this card as the overarching reason for the reading, and it's the Emperor. And the Emperor is Aries energy, which is about the self. So, you know, are people more about themselves, or have they learned lessons in life? Because High Vibe Emperor is where you've gone on these journeys in life and went through these different life experiences. And High Vibe Emperor can talk about a male or a female. The masculine energies can represent how we present ourselves in the world. So some people are looking like bosses in the world in some way. It's also fire sign energy. They could look attractive. They could be charming. They could be bright. Gemini's air sign energy of the mind. They could be bright. They could be competent. They could be intelligent. They could be attractive. They could be charming. They could be good with their words. They could be, you know, everybody in a way is trying to present themselves kind of in a way where they think that's a good decision. And the Emperor's about making decisions in your life. And we can all think we're making good decisions. And then we would probably tend to think that we're conducting ourselves in a way that we think is just and fair, and that people should kind of follow our example. And everybody's got their idea of how they live life and what they think is just and fair, and think everybody should follow their lead. But High Vibe Emperor would be people who really are who they say they are. They are motivated and inspired by love. They have tempered their more immature egoic nature. And High Vibe Emperor would be that you've learned all these lessons in the 4 suits of the deck. The heart, the mind, the 3D world, the passionate nature. High Vibe Emperor has learned the lessons of the 4 kings. But to really be a High Vibe Emperor, that means internally, and the feminine figures talk about how we think and feel, they'd have to be an empress. Where emotionally, they have learned these lessons in the 4 suits of the deck also. I let my heart run my life, and it kind of threw my life out of balance. I let my mind run my life. I let my defensive nature run my life. I let my worldly nature, I let my lust and my greed and my immature nature run my life. And all those different things kind of ran my life into the ditch in different ways. High Vibe Emperor is that, and Empress is that you kind of learned what's too far, this direction, that direction, from your heart, your mind, your worldly nature, your passionate nature, in the four suits of the deck. And you become a good leader of your own kingdom of self. And you realize, because of these lessons you've learned, that if I go too far tipped into that direction, making my heart or my mind or the world or me or my passionate nature, whatever, tip me too far out of balance, it can tip my whole life out of balance, right? So I need to learn to work with and appreciate that all four aspects of me are important. I can love people all I want, but if I don't balance my heart with my truth and my mind and my practical nature and my worldly nature and my passionate nature and creative nature, it's going to tip me out of balance. They're all equally important. But with Gemini being air sign energy, some people could think the most important thing could be to do it seems practical and logical. Well, that's kind of maybe not listening to their intuition. It would be practical and logical to get a job maybe that you think would make you a lot of money, but what if you hate it every day? It's like torture to go to work. You know, if you get in a job and friendships and relationships with people where you enjoy them and people are being authentic and it's something you really like to do and it's in your skill set, then having certain jobs, friendships, and relationships, it doesn't even feel like a job. Because you enjoy going there and hanging out with those people or doing those things, right? But we all have these lessons to learn. Some people are harnessing this energy in a shadowy way, which can be they have a shadowy Empress energy internally. And that would be Libra-Taurus energy, which can be our philosophy of life and what we think is just and fair. And it can either be where it's more about them or these things of the world. That's what's most important. So in their Gemini nature, it's like it's a little bit more about me, or these things of the world are more important than love, justice, fairness, balance, treating other people the way I like to be treated. And other people are kind of the opposite of that. Then there's people in the mix somewhere on the spectrum, right? But in a world of duality where we have free will, for every person in the world, somewhere on the spectrum of I have hope and faith and belief and love, regardless of my age or my emotional maturity level, and have a sense of justice and fairness, there's equally going to be people on the opposite side that harness those energies in a more shadowy way to various degrees. So, what is going on? High vibe people, at the end of the story, we have the Fool in reversed, which I associate that with Aries energy, but I just looked it up also because of a tarot video I was watching, and it's Aquarius, Pisces, and Aries is what it can represent, which again is kind of like, what do we view as emotionally fulfilling? What is our dream? And kind of what motivates and inspires us. So again, it can be, am I more about me, more about the world? What do I think will make me happy? And some people really have gone on these journeys and learned these lessons that, what really makes the dream come into reality and that really is fulfilling emotionally is being at peace and balance within myself, loving myself, because again, Aries energy is about the self. Do I love myself? Do I treat myself in a just and fair manner? Do I know how to offer myself a cup of love to temper my fears and my insecurities? Or do I just try to act like I do and hope maybe if I have a certain status or image or whatever in the world or look a certain way or whatever, that people will think I'm that kind of person. But, you either are who you say you are or you're not. And you're more about a certain status or image or having people indulge you, or you're not. So we have the Judgment card starting out the reading, and the reason it came out is because of the King of Swords, which is kind of saying, there will be consequences for our actions, but some people, no, I'm the boss. And some people haven't learned some lessons in life. Some people think, no, if I have this certain image about me or this certain status about me, I view the King of Swords as Libra energy, and two masculine cards, again, people are presenting themselves, male or female, like they're these just and fair, truthful, inspiring, creative people who, in the Judgment card, create the illusion they're willing to hold themselves accountable for their actions. Some people really are that. And some people just try to create the illusion of being that. Some people have learned, I'm not the boss. Really, seeing the King of Swords and the Emperor together, some people are quite controlling, and that's their truth. I just need to control everything, and it'll go fine. I'm the boss. I can control things or manipulate things, or it just should be more about me. I think that's just and fair. Libra energy, represented by the scales of justice of what we think is just and fair. Other people like, I'm not the boss. Everybody in their Gemini energy has free will. All I can do is hopefully take the lessons I've learned in life to maintain balance within myself, temper my own fears, my own insecurities, my pride, my ego, offer other people truth and love, treat them the way I like to be treated, and then those people have free will to decide how they want to act or react or live their life. And some people don't like that. Some people call judgment on people like that. Well, no, I kind of think it should be more about me. I should be able to manipulate and control you. And other people are like, I've already been in relationships with people who are like that, and I don't think that's just and fair. Because I'm my own person. And high vibe energy is about being independent. Are you my parent? No. Okay, and I'm an adult. And in high vibe energy, I'm not trying to hurt or abuse or anything. I'm going out in the world treating other people in a just and fair, loving and encouraging and inspiring way. And there's definitely people in the world who don't like that. Because they have things that manipulate them, that make them choose to harness these energies in a shadowy way. And the Judgment card, though it does kind of have connotations of being around like Libra energy, it also is regarding the fixed sign energies, where everybody kind of has their way of living life. That's their comfort zone. That's maybe how they view life. And some people are a little more inflexible. Well, your truth is different than my truth. Well, you're more creative or inspired, or, I don't know, something that they don't like it. It's different. It's change, and they don't like it. So, we're just part of the game of life. At the big picture, who really knows, but we seem to live in a world of duality. We seem to have our more immature, prideful, egotistical, self-indulgent, poor, pitiful me aspect of ourself, and then we also can have our more hopeful, believing, loving nature, and we meet all these different people somewhere on the spectrum, and they have free will. So, we kind of refer to, at the big picture, shadowy energy, kind of represented by the devil, and high vibe energy represented by God. The devil doesn't want to give birth to anything new. God does want to give birth to new things. God wants us to free ourselves from things that manipulate us. Shadowy energy doesn't want us to free ourselves from things that manipulate us. Our own shadow nature wants us to think it's just and fair to be all about ourselves and let our shadow nature be in the driver's seat of our life. But our shadow nature doesn't care if we end up dead in the gutter. Our shadow nature, we have the free will to align with shadowy energy, could completely indulge in everything and end up dead on the road street. And our shadow nature is going to say, damn, that was great. Because we have the free will to choose which thoughts and emotions and actions and things that we do in our life. Our high vibe nature wants us to align with our more hopeful believing nature and stand up for ourselves, be a good leader in our life, learn lessons, grow up and mature ourselves. It's like you could look at life as being the game of life where you said, I want to know what it means to have free will, and I'm sure I'll choose to align with my more hopeful, believing, loving nature. Really? Oh, well, we're going to send you down to planet Earth. You're going to have your more immature, shadowy nature of self. You're going to have your lust and your greed and your pride and your ego. You also have the seeds with knowledge of the tree and good and evil within you. Kind of a conscience of what's right and wrong. And you might feel a little guilty if you don't treat other people the way you like to be treated. But, if we keep ignoring that, eventually we can our heart can harden and we kind of lose our conscience. There are rules to this game of life. There is a higher truth and justice. And that's where the masculine cards, whether male or female, people can represent if people could be operating a little bit more from their egoic nature instead of aligning with their more Kriv inspired intuitive nature, because we have this duality within us and we can all go present ourselves any way in the world we want, take whatever action we want, so that can kind of represent our more egoic nature. But emotionally, if we're connected in with that aspect of ourself, then we are more balanced within ourself. And we take both into consideration when we make these decisions. Is this a good decision or a bad decision? Am I taking action more out of fear and insecurity and pride and ego and lust and greed and more about myself? What about the people I'm in a relationship with? What about the people I hang out with? What about the people I work with? And some of the people that have learned these lessons in life and don't like feeling manipulated and controlled by their own more shadowy nature, and in turn don't like to be in relationships with people who are maybe trying to manipulate and control them. Because again, high vibe energy should be that I should respect other people, that they're their own individual and they have their things they like to go invest their time, energy, and effort into. I ain't got to hang out with them if I don't want to. They're going to reap the consequences of their decisions, but I can treat other people in a just and fair manner. Or I can be in my ego and I can be competitive and jealous and envious and want to try to take them down so I feel more powerful or something. We will all go through judgment because other people are going to be aligned with and motivated and inspired by our truth or not by our truth. And we can either stay in our ego about it, or in the King of Swords, we can deal with the truth of it. Where do I need to heal and grow and mature myself? Okay. How do I think I conducted myself? Okay. What about the other people? Where do they need to heal and grow and mature themselves? And how did they conduct themselves? We can all have growing and maturing to do in working together with people more cooperatively and respecting that everybody's kind of at where they're at in life and everybody has their own skill sets and people are at different emotional maturity levels and intellect and all that good stuff. That, am I treating people in a just and fair way? Am I being bossy and controlling, my way or the highway? That there will be consequences. But also, if I do deal with people, just like other people dealing with us, that I do think are a little more shadowy And it seems like if we're going to get along, it kind of has to be me enabling them in that poor behavior. And that's where a relationship gets more tipped out of balance. And some high vibe people are like, because high vibe people can be loving, nurturing people who want and are inspired to put in work and effort to try to make things balanced, to make it loving and encouraging and, work together cooperatively. And sometimes that's what shadowy people are counting on. You put a lot of work, and that's like fixed sign energy of the Judgment card. You're someone who puts in a lot of work and effort to try to make things work, right? Perfect. I'm not going to do what you want. I'm not going to interact with you in a more just and fair or authentic or loving way. And that bothers you because you kind of don't understand maybe that way of thinking. And you could think everybody's motivated and inspired by love, aren't they? And want to work together and be more cooperative. And you have a hard time wrapping your brain around the truth that that's not my truth. And so sometimes shadowy people indulge in relationships with people who put a lot of work and effort to try to get it to work. And it's like, yeah, I'll shadowy fire sign energy, I'll indulge in this for as long as you don't want to see the truth and call judgment on me, that my truth is different than your truth. But you seem to want to stay in denial of that truth. Okay, we'll keep doing this relationship. I will keep standing up for what I believe in, which is being more about myself or more cold or more detached or unwilling to take accountability for my actions, indulging myself in my more immature ways of being. And as long as you're willing to indulge me in it, hey, this works for me. High vibe energy is being illuminated to the truth. Love is supposed to be just and fair. And even if it's not a love relationship, when you're working together with other people in the world, it should be just and fair and treating each other the way you like to be treated and the way that you're treating them to work cooperatively together. Not being like immature and foolish and full of yourself or something. And some people in the world have experienced it, to become an emperor. In tarot, we have the pages, the knights, the kings, the queens, the emperor, the empress, the hierophant, and the high priestess. I think there's a saying in the Bible, but if not, there's a saying that there's no new thing under the sun. We keep kind of dealing the world with kind of the same issues, just in different packages. So when we were little kids, like pages or much younger adults, we dealt with issues in relationships, right? People being nice, kind, mean, rude, bully, malicious, gossipy, whatever, right? And then we become knights and we're not the same person we were. We've learned some lessons in life, but it's really the same thing, as just kind of repackaged different, but it's the same old stuff. But as people kind of get older, and that's where we come back to people operating a little more from their egoic nature in a way that, and then we have the strength card here of Leo, which is either high vibe, more loving and encouraging energy, or operating more from your ego nature. People just get better at covering it up. You could know someone and you don't meet them till they're 45. Other people knew them when they were 15. And they're really the same person, some of them, that they were at 15. They just covered up better. But they're still whatever they were. Egotistical, bossy, controlling. It has to be all about them. Gossipy, malicious, a bully. They just have learned to cover it up better. And they might, have more status, image, or power, or whatever. More victorious and successful looking in life as time has went by. Then maybe then or something, right? Some people are calling judgment on some people. And they're kind of, as we go through these life experiences, I went through it enough. I went through it with people when I was 15, 21, 25, 35, 45, 65, with my own siblings, my own parents, my own kids, if you have kids, and all these different things. I am done. I am standing up for my truth. And my truth is, I'm going to offer people, fire sign energy can be like being loving and encouraging and authentic with people. I am who I say I am. I am motivated and inspired to work together with you in a just and fair way from love. And if there's people who's like, that's not my truth, and they kind of act in these more shadowy ways, eventually some people in life have no more patience for it. It's like, that's fine. You be like that. In the Two of Cups came out because of the Ten of Cups, which the Ten of Cups is Pisces. And the Two of Cups is Cancer, which can kind of be in our Two of Cups. What are we more aligned with? What do we find that we think will ultimately make us happy? And some people are like, well, I don't want to do love. I get hurt doing love. I've maybe already known people that were loving and they weren't loving, so now I don't trust anybody. It's like, okay, well, that would say you're kind of living more out of your defensive nature than listening to your intuition, because not everyone's the same, but that's your free will choice. And some people are aligned with happy, making it more about them or more about the world. It's like, okay, thank you for showing me your truth. And high vibe people aren't going to get up in their ego about it. And in the Four of Pentacles, they just know that those people aren't people. After the Four of Pentacles would be the Five of Pentacles, and moving forward with certain people, like in new friendships or relationships, or investing more time and energy and effort into them. It's like, no, the people who I know in my life, and the Leo strength card, Leo's also represented by the sun, I'm not caught up in denial or illusion anymore. If people show me by their actions and their words and whatever else that they're more aligned with their more worldly, shadowy nature, then I deal with the truth of it. The foundation, the Four of Pentacles can talk about kind of this foundation that we kind of hold on to, is like how our truth of how we want to work together with people, our truth is different, and then how we want to move forward in life based on that truth is different. And again, kind of what drives and motivates us, because the Four of Pentacles is Capricorn energy. And, again, just like all the other zodiac signs, we tap into all the zodiac signs that are in our heart and our mind and our 3D world and our creative, passionate nature represented by the different zodiac signs. We all have our idea of what we think is like victorious and successful. And for some people in shadowy Leo Capricorn that people can harness, I like to kind of dominate and control people. That makes me feel powerful. Or I am more about me and maybe self-protective of me, or think if I operate from my ego, and then people who haven't seen through the illusion of people like me might kind of indulge me in my ego. And I like that. And that's how I want to live my life. And I view that as victorious and successful. Or I'm more about me and my ego and my image and money and materialism. That's what's most important to me. What do you have? Are you going to contribute to my... I don't know if you have anything to contribute that'll benefit me in my ego, my image, or my status, or whatever. And so then it's like you're not worth investing in, right? And some people are like that. And other people have dealt with people like that. And I was like, yeah, we do have different ways of interacting in the world and what we value. High vibe Leo and Capricorn would be that there's all sorts of people in the world at all different ages and stratas and whatever that could be very encouraging, supportive, enlightening, just fair people that I'm going to treat everyone the way I would treat anyone else. And that's high vibe energy. I treat other people the way I like to be treated. And I just want to work with people who treat me that way too. And people who have that philosophy of life. And viewing what's victorious and successful, high vibe energy is about, in high vibe Libra, balance. Do I want some of these things of the world? And do I have my own shadow nature and my own fears and my own insecurities and blah, blah, blah? Yeah. But I offer love to my more worldly nature, since high vibe Leo is like not your shadow in high vibe. It's like offering yourself love and encouragement to your own worldly nature of self, to help grow your own worldly nature of self, to work through your fears and your insecurities, to love and believe in yourself. And you offer yourself love and compassion and forgiveness for the mistakes you've made on this journey of life. You offer it to other people in your past and other people in your life. But I'm not going to keep investing more time, energy, and effort than I have to with some people in the world who are already have been illuminated that their truth is different than my truth. In the sense that, can I work together with you? Can I get along with you? Can I know you in my community or in my family? Yeah. Am I going to get in a more involved relationship with you? No, because you've already shown me that you're kind of more about yourself, or living more from your mind than your heart, or you're more materialistic, or more self-indulgent, or more prideful, egotistical, or manipulative, or I guess think that if you decide anything's just or fair, you think everybody else should think that's just and fair. And I don't think that's just and fair. And, some people's truth in a more worldly view of life, it's more, you should make your life about these things. And this is what I do. And this is how I act. And this is how I dress. And these are the functions I go to. These are the things I don't go to. And these are the things and the people I don't talk to. But it could be more, it's just kind of all these shadowy Gemini, kind of all these rules in their head of, well, that would be beneficial for this, and that would be beneficial for that, and this would be good for me in this way. What about love? How about wearing things and doing things and investing in things and attending certain functions and not attending certain functions or events or whatever, because you authentically really do enjoy those things, or you really don't. It's not your truth. But for some people, it's all a strategy, because that would be kind of living more from your mind and trying to create this illusion about who you are in the world. Well, I should attend these things, and I should go to that, and I shouldn't go to this, and I shouldn't do that. It's kind of like some of them not even living their more authentic life, because they want to. Libra can be like our public politician persona. I want people to view me a certain way. I might have these things in my fire nature that I would really like to go do, but then people might frown on that. So I have to maintain a certain image in the world, and anyone can harness that energy. That I need to look this certain way, and this makes logical, practical sense, and this would make me look maybe in the sun, kind of, and the Capricorn energy would make me look victorious and successful. Even though that could even not be what they'd really like to go do. But they're not willing, in the Fool reversed, to go even live their more authentic life. And that can be, where you let your more egoic, worldly nature kind of dictate your truth. And that's what other people have done too. And I think the last one to kind of get on board is our fire sign energy. Because in our fire sign energy, we're all more caught up in a lot of these things in the world for probably the first 30, 40 years of our life. When we're younger, we're going to go indulge in all these things. And, we're sure those things are going to make us happy. And we might have learned along the way that we needed to be illuminated to the truth, that we needed to quit indulging in some of those things to the extent we're indulging in them. Or, we were going to, in the Four of Pentacles, not kind of like grow and mature ourselves There's a maximum of 10 in every suit, and hopefully we go through periods of our life where we go through a phase of life, we learn the lessons, we shed the 10 of Pentacles of some of those things. We take the most important things that we learn from that phase with us to the next phase of life. And then we live life at that phase of life. And because some people really are more stubborn, more prideful, more egotistical, more unwilling to open up, more unwilling to be more independent, they kind of keep stuck in the Four of Pentacles. And, that's okay. Everybody has the free will to live their life whatever way they want, that they think is just and fair, that might make them feel comfortable and happy and stable and grounded within themselves. We got room in the world for all sorts of people in the world. And sometimes, though, some people who it's like, well, I thought we were still going to be inspired to keep healing and growing and maturing ourselves, and kind of looking at some of the things that maybe we should let go of periodically and work through some of our fears and our insecurities and our self-limiting beliefs. And, some people could be trying to finish out a phase. If you have to learn all these lessons kind of in these areas of life, some people right now could be going through a phase where they're learning what it means to live their life more aligned with their air sign energy of self, which could be, thinking that the certain way of living life and maybe living more from their mind than their heart, or maybe kind of indulging themselves in certain things, trying to get balanced. The fire sign energies offset the air sign energies. And so we kind of can go out to extremes in either one. And it's trying to learn these lessons about, well, I thought for sure if I went kind of more in that direction, that would make me happy. And then I could have went more in this direction. I thought that would make me happy. And it's all trying to kind of maybe get balance within yourself. And some people are still on that journey. Other people kind of went through that, and now they are just more balanced within all these things. And again, like I say, I think harnessing our fire sign energy, I think, is the last one to get on board, because in our heart and our mind and our 3D nature, we could all be like, God, I want this to end. I want to finish out this cycle. I want to go to the next cycle. But until our fire sign energy within ourself gets inspired enough to get on board and kind of emotionally invest in that change. And so the fire sign energy can be, but I kind of want to repeat this old pattern. I might kind of still be in my ego about this old pattern. That's like Sagittarius and Gemini energy. And I kind of think I'm the boss, and I kind of don't want to accept the truth, God. I wanted that to work out. Make that work. And God's like, they have free will, and they're not doing that. I know, but I wanted that to work. I think that's just and fair. It's like, you could think that's just and fair, but you're dealing with other people who have free will. If you want to keep staying in your ego, you can keep holding on to this, and we'll all wait. you know, and it takes time to work through these things. And if in our fire sign energy, we kind of get inspired to go to the next stage, we have the Knight of Cups, the Page of Swords, the Eight of Swords, which is Gemini energy, the Four of Swords, working through that air sign energy, the Nine of Cups, and then the Ten of Swords. The answer to working through it is to be inspired to keep offering love to ourselves and the situation. staying in the energy of love instead of fear and insecurity or defensiveness or ego or competitive energy or whatever is going to be the answer. And offer truth and love. The Page of Swords represents all three of the air signs of Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, that we have a dream. And Aquarius and Pisces was part of the Judgment card along with Aries. We can all want things to have worked out the way we wanted them to work out. But have we been deceiving ourselves? Between the One Sword and the Eight of Swords is the Seven of Swords, which again is Aquarius energy. Are people treating me in a just and fair and authentic and loving way, or are they not? In Aquarius energy, we want to move forward, but the way we move forward is some truth is the driving factor for why we want to move forward the way we want to move forward. And if someone wants to move forward more aligned with, motivated and inspired by these things, and someone else wants to move forward more motivated and inspired by these things, it can be challenging. One person might be a little more bold and brave and confident, or loving and nurturing and just and fair, and maybe another person is more fearful of opening up or change or stepping outside their comfort zone. But even just being more authentically themselves and more open and loving and giving can be difficult, right? So we have to work through our own fears and insecurities, that if I have a dream I want to bring into reality, and it seems like their dream and what makes them feel comfortable and safe or secure, or what drives and motivates them, is different, and my more hopeful, believing nature of what I want to manifest and what they might want to manifest, our dream, is different. Then I have to work through my own fears and insecurities of that Seven of Swords. Am I willing to listen to my intuition and hold on to my dream? Or do I stay not listening to my intuition, maybe feeling stuck, more out of staying in a certain job, friendship, or relationship, or way of living life, or staying in a certain location, or any of those things, because of my fear of doing something different, or believing I can manifest my dream into reality? But if my dream really isn't coming into reality here, and for a long time, sometimes again, we come into contact with certain people because we would be able to help each other in some way, work through something that could have been keeping us stuck. Maybe just being loving and encouraging and supportive people to each other. But then once we've been kind of loving and encouraging people to each other, then when we're kind of ready to move forward, then we could realize that phase of life with the Ten of Swords here has kind of come to an end. And the way people want to move forward now is different. Can there still be love there? Yeah, but kind of maybe realizing that how we want to move forward now, and maybe, our truth was different the whole time, but because we were at a stage of life of trying to get more clear about what our truth was and not staying in denial of the truth, and, just assuming that everything that happens to us can be used for our good purposes. What was the lesson to be learned? What was the good things and the positive things? And where didn't I listen to my intuition? Where did I maybe make decisions more out of fear and insecurity? What about the other person? what kind of gets them up in their head and what are their fears and insecurities. And, if there's people in our life that, in the Four of Swords, that, if we're loving and encouraging and supportive to each other and we're kind of open to that, well, then some of those relationships together, the Nine of Cups, again, in Pisces energy, is we kind of work through those issues and we offered love to it to kind of work through any confusion we had about moving forward in this new way that could be a little different. And we kind of work through the fears that we have of moving forward in life differently. Like, it doesn't have to be this big change, because sometimes, like in the Fool, you can feel it's this big leap of faith, but it's like, high vibe energy, a lot of times, it's our Virgo nature that takes slow, steady steps every day, step by step, little by little. I mean, a lot of people don't want big, drastic change in their life. But can we take it small steps, one step at a time, and maybe 2 steps this time for a while? And then if we start to move forward and that seems a little scary, we kind of step back a step. But are we at least willing to take a step to move things forward? And sometimes there's going to be some people in our life that are like, no, I'm not. And from the Seven of Swords, well, actually, that's the Eight of Swords, down to the Four of Swords, again, is kind of working through that, because the Four of Swords is also represented by Libra energy, and kind of maybe what our truth is, and if we have some pain, heartbreak, fear, insecurities, self-limiting beliefs, what we think is just and fair is not the same. And so then we have to work through becoming independent of some people we would have liked to have move forward with us. And so just like we close out a cycle and we don't move forward with those people, and they keep moving forward the way they want to move forward, then we might take this time to consider, who do I think are people that I've known in my life? Because again, in our free will, we had to make these decisions in our life, and sometimes I moved to that town, I didn't move to that town or state or country. Maybe I should have checked that out. I could have become friends with these people and not these people. I could have dated this person, not dated that person. I could have married this person, not married that person. When I reflect on all of the things that affected the decisions that I made in my life, where did I make decisions more out of fear and insecurity or indulgence or not willing to take a leap of faith? Where did I cling to an old pattern where other people wanted me to have more hope and faith and belief, but I didn't? When have I been in relationships with people that I wanted to move forward, they didn't want to move forward? And it's kind of coming to I'm kind of looking for if there's a card out here but there doesn't seem to be. But we can all be more codependent, we can all be more fearful, we can all have not learned to love ourselves, we haven't healed. And then I think high vibe people get out of their ego, and it's like, when you've learned the lessons you were meant to learn, did I make these mistakes? Was I in this energy? Was I more immature? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Okay. And then high vibe people aren't willing to admit it. They get out of their ego. And if there's people in their life that it's like, you know what? I could have called judgment on some things, and I could have made some decisions in my life, and either I was caught up in myself. I was caught up in the world. I wasn't seeing how I was repeating a past pattern. I wasn't seeing how I hadn't healed from past pain and heartbreak. But all of this has led to me healing. And that's the thing. I think we'll be drawn and attracted to certain people who kind of force us to kind of deal with those issues, because we could be repeating some patterns, and we also could have been driven and motivated, and Pisces energy, these things that were kind of in our subconscious that we didn't even know how those things impacted us and affected us and our decision making. And then we go through that life experience, and there's things about it that kind of force us to kind of look at those things that we either didn't know we had to deal with, but it brings them to the surface. Because high vibe energy is trying to get us to be illuminated to the truth of some things we need to deal with. And then once we deal with it and we've healed, and in the Nine of Cups, we've kind of become independent of some of those things that used to manipulate us, we've closed out and shed a layer of ourself. And we've kind of gotten rebalanced within ourselves. And we're kind of ready to move forward in life a little differently than we had before. And then we might communicate with people in our life the truth. That I had these things that I learned kind of manipulated me. And then you leave it up to them. You know? And it can get us up in our head a little bit. You know, there's some people that we might think are more on the same page as us. There might be people that we'd kind of like to reconnect with. But we work through it where it's like, that again gets me in shadowy energy. Everybody's got free will. Everybody has to make their decisions. I'm not going to try to manipulate and control or tempt people. Other people are. And I'm going to let people make their own decisions. And in the meantime, I'm not going to keep staying up in my head about it, and I'm going to rest and heal and reconcile myself that, you know, there are consequences to our actions. And just like some people from my life might hold me accountable for my actions, and it's like, you know, hey, I'm glad you worked through that, but am I interested in being in a more involved or reconnecting? No. And just like some people might say that to me, you know, there's consequences for people in my life too that might want to come back in my life. And it's like, I'm not the same person I was back then. And I'm glad you maybe worked through that. But, you know, people could have become independent of a cycle and they've moved on. And especially, you know, we can have love for people, but if we've invested in new friendships, relationships, moved on to a different job, if that's the case, I've had this new beginning, and the only reason I might do something would be if I wanted to indulge more in my ego. Well, I don't want to be a fool. And if I have loving and encouraging people, you know, that can be where, you know, cycles end, and then we can move on with new things. And high vibe people try to come to a place of peace about those things so that when they get in those new relationships, and some people are doing that work within themselves now, when I get in something new, I want to be done with this old whatever it was. That cycle will be left behind me. And some people don't, you know? And some of the people who keep repeating old patterns, if they have this certain kind of more stubborn or rigid way of viewing life, and if people aren't willing to live their life that way, they could think, well, away with you then. You can go. I will find someone else to get in a relationship. And some of those people are going to keep having people become independent of them and not wanting to stay in a relationship with them, because it can be hard for them to find someone if they're kind of bossy, controlling, maybe prideful, maybe manipulative, maybe kind of self-indulgent, kind of not aligned with that spark of life that they had the potential to align with, where they're more just creative and inspired or hopeful and believing, and they might know. I kind of view the King of Swords as can be a person's like self-protective, defensive nature. And I'm not going to let my more hopeful, believing nature out to play. You know, I want to be in relationships, but I'm going to operate from my ego, and I'm going to hold back from taking more creative, inspired, passionate action in my life. And it's more about being in it for the ego and the image and the status, and I will indulge myself in it, but I will not more invest in it than I have to. And I will create the illusion, that shadowy Knight of Cups, that it's love to get people to move forward with me, but my inner child stays imprisoned because I have decided that kind of aligning with that, that's a no-go. I operate more from my self-protective, egoic nature. And some people don't want to stay in relationships with people who are like that. And again, other people can get in a relationship. You know, it's like God uses all people also for God's good purposes. There's a lot of other people in the world that need to come into contact with people like this for them to decide in their free will, is this my truth or isn't this my truth? And some of the people that got in workplaces and friendships and relationships after some other people closed out a cycle and they weren't going to repeat that pattern, called judgment on it, left. Well, then other people come into those people's life or workplace, and then those people have the free will to decide what they want to do or not. But eventually, I would think, you know, everybody can be more inspired to want to be in a relationship just to be in a relationship. I have fear of being more independent. I'm willing to stay in a relationship with you. Some people I had been in a relationship with didn't want to stay in a relationship with me either, because I have these illusions about relationships, and you have illusions about relationships. This is perfect. Let's both of us be in a relationship, because we might be kind of, either we're more caught up in these things of the world, or we're both kind of not willing to open up, or more self-protective, or more about ourself, and we'll see if we can work it out, you know? And, you know, so, you know, if there is more shadowy people, the more shadowy people in the world, there could be people in their life that they would like to be in a relationship. Some of them could have more of the ego and the image and the money and stuff like that they want. They also could know people who are more nurturing and loving. But the thing is, some people have these illusions about relationships and they can't decide what they want. So the Eight of Swords is up in their head about the Two of Swords, and it's kind of like, which path do I pick? And while some people, that's like also Libra energy, where people can't decide, well, I don't know, when I'm with these people, I can like a lot of things about that, but then they kind of want me to step out of my comfort zone and be more bold and brave and confident and independent, but I'm kind of more about the world, or kind of more about me. And then I get in relationships with people who are like that, but then those people might kind of be like that, and then I kind of miss the loving people, and then I kind of want to go over there. And the problem is, some people who couldn't decide, other people did. And the loving people said, I'm closing out a cycle with you because I've kind of seen the truth that you can't decide, or you're kind of more about this and not this. And so I'm going to move forward this way. And the people in their life who could have been more about the world or ego and image or something, that's what their truth. And they could have closed out a cycle with them to do that. And so now some of the people who, again, kind of thought, well, I couldn't decide, and I just thought maybe you'd indulge me and kind of be in your ego about me, and maybe you both want to hold on to me, and then maybe you'd give me more time for me to figure out what I want. And some other people are like, it's either your truth or it's not, and if it's not, I know my truth, and I'm leaving. And so some of those people could feel judged. And judgment is like the Ten of Swords. Other people made their decision. And now some people who couldn't make a decision, could just be repeating this pattern with the next kind of people who come in their life. And I still can't decide. I get in relationships with more loving and encouraging people, but then those people do want me to be more just and fair, and they're not willing to indulge me, and I kind of feel like I should be a little more indulged, and then problems go on in that relationship, and then I think maybe I don't want to be with them anyway, and maybe I'd like to just go indulge myself or be in relationships with people who are more about this, and then they go to, and then it's up to those people to decide, if this isn't your truth, and I have seen by your actions that this apparently isn't your truth, well, then I'm going to accept the truth, work through becoming more independent of this situation, and I'm not going to take foolish action in my life. I don't want to repeat a past pattern. And so I'm going to align within myself of giving myself the things that I wish people would have given me, know my worth and value, stand up for myself, be a leader in my own life and in my world, and then the only people I'm going to get in relationship with are people I'm going to be offering people truth and love, but I'm going to listen to my intuition. And if anyone comes towards me and my intuition tells me they're just creating an illusion, go create an illusion with someone else. If you're still operating more from your ego or you want it to be more about you, go get in a relationship with someone else. Do I have to be rude or mean? No, I just kind of listen to my intuition. And if my intuition tells me to keep kind of my distance from them, I can know them, I can get along with them. Am I going to move forward and take more action with you? No, not until my intuition tells me that I think you're inspired by love and that you're being truthful and authentic. And if that's the case, then you are someone I will go on a new journey with. And there's other people who see that. And just like you've done that, there's other people in the world that have done that. People you would like to be friends with who aren't shadowy. People you'd like to be in a relationship with if you're not in a relationship that have went through that. And as you're moving forward in life, not investing your time, energy, and effort into the people who didn't work together with you in this more high vibrational way, that frees you up to meet more people as you move forward in the world, listening to your intuition about who's who. And just like some of those people, as people come up the path of life that they come in contact with, listen to their intuition about who's who. And everybody then might have to decide, I was kind of moving forward in this way or with these people or thinking I was going to keep moving forward in this way. But wait a minute, maybe now I've come in contact with someone who seems to be on the same page as me. Maybe I should get to know them, figure out what they think is just and fair. If they're more independent, if they're creating an illusion, if they're more whatever. And if we're on the same page, then we'll move forward together. But some high vibe people don't want to keep repeating this old pattern, and other people, they're not willing to move forward in life differently. And we need to see the difference between who's who. What's coming up for some people who harness some high vibe Gemini energy that they might not see coming? It's just kind of a lot of cards. The Lover's card, which is Gemini energy. The Three of Swords, the Ace of Pentacles, the Seven of Cups, the Judgment card, the Star card, and the Queen of Cups. And the reason it came out is because of the Death card. So the Death card can be about doing this work within yourself to call judgment on yourself and other people. Why? Because of love. You want justice. You want a new beginning. No more illusion. You've already invested in the illusion. Now, the Seven of Cups, like the Death card in Scorpio energy, it's not more about the superficial and the looks or the whatever. I want a deep, meaningful relationship. based on truth and love, that is just and fair with other people who have hope and faith and belief in their dreams, and who are motivated and inspired by love. And the people in your life who you know harness this energy, want to keep repeating an old pattern, they could like to be in relationships with people who are heartbroken, or who have money, or because they live more from their mind than their heart, they offer people things of the world, and they invest in this illusion about the person that they are to get people in a relationship with them, but then they don't really want to give birth to anything new. Shadowy Scorpio, great, now let's do this whole pattern just like this. I don't want to give birth to anything new. I want to keep doing life the way I've always done it. You're just the next person I got in a relationship with that I want to repeat that old pattern with. And you've seen that that's how they operate. They don't ever give birth to anything new. Nothing ever changes. It lacks creativity and inspiration and imagination and independence. They just have this way of viewing life that, again, it's dead energy. And you saw the truth of it. And it's like, I am not willing to put an end to love and things that I love and my dreams. I might have love for people. I might like certain things. But I think it'd be more because being more manipulated, either people trying to manipulate my loving nature, or more out of ego and image. And I'm not willing to settle and make my life about that. It either has to be based on truth and love, or they can be in a relationship with someone else. So going through this process is going to transform your whole life. You will close out a cycle. Someone that you loved broke your heart. You see the truth of it. They had the free will choice to work together with you in a just and fair and authentic and loving way, but they wanted to keep investing in the illusion because they didn't want to change, or they didn't want to be just and fair, or they didn't want to get out of their ego or having it more about them, or they have people in their life that manipulate them that they're not willing to become independent of. You accept the truth from love, and that's what helps you close out a cycle. And then you're going to move forward, investing in a new beginning, maintaining balance within yourself, believing in yourself, believing in your dreams, staying in the energy of love. And I think as you do that, other people see, yeah, you're not someone who's going to put up with people's bullshit or immature ways of being. But I think there'll be other people who don't want to put up and be in this energy either. But they know in order to come towards you and be in a relationship with you, they can't be in that dead energy. And if they are, I think you'll tell them the truth. I really don't think we're on the same page. And I think we're at a good place. This works for me, what we have right now. And the people who do seem to have transformed their life, been enlightened to the truth, are invested in having a more deep, meaningful, just and fair relationship from love, those are the people you'll move forward with. And while you're doing that, transforming your life, some other people are going to repeat an old pattern. We have the Nine of Swords, the Wheel of Fortune, the Knight of Cups, and the Moon card not showing itself. And the reason that came out is because of the Strength card. So the Moon card can be about listening to their intuition. Everybody's intuition tells them you're being just unjust and unfair. You're being bossy and controlling. You're being maybe immature. You get caught up in your head and your fears and your insecurities. Listen to your intuition, but they reject listening to their intuition. And if they got themselves in something, and they've kind of created an illusion, look how wonderful my life is, they're not willing to reveal, let go of the illusion, these things that they're kind of caught up in, or caught up in the illusion of themselves. They're not willing to let go of it. You know, they still want to hide behind their ego nature and their defensive nature. And they're fearful, in the Nine of Swords, of going with the flow and offering love to their fears to temper their ego. And because of that, there's going to be people in their life who are harnessing this energy in a high vibe way that haven't wanted to accept the truth. But, you know, again, we can only hide from the truth for so long, and eventually some of the people in their life are like, I can't keep investing in an illusion either. Is there a lot of things I like about this that I would like to stay in it and I could love you? But you keep wanting to, you know, you're either letting your more hopeful, believing, authentic nature out to play in a relationship. And if the one person is doing that and the other person isn't, it's like you're in a relationship with their false person, their cardboard cutout person. Their authentic nature is looking out through the eyeballs, but their ego is kind of running their life. And it's like, I can't keep moving forward in an illusion. Or if you really are more bossy and controlling, or you are more immature, or you are more fearful or insecure or something, or codependent on something, I can't keep maintaining this illusion. And they're going to have some high vibe people in their life that are going to distance themselves from them, friends or family members or whoever. And because these people are really fearful of change or offering love to people and being more authentic, they're probably going to go repeat this old pattern. And they're going to keep moving forward. And the thing about sometimes when people are shadowy, what I've gathered from tarot, is some people know they try to control people in a relationship because that makes them feel safe and secure. They're always stressed out. They can be loving and encouraging people kind of in a relationship, but they want to control it. I don't really want you, I'm okay with you working through some issues because that also would be good for my ego and my image, and you'd probably be more loving and nurturing to me. But ultimately, I don't want you to be more independent of your more worldly egoic nature. Because then you'll want me to become more independent of it. So they're always fearful that, and that's why some high vibe people, some of the people you get in relationships with, you feel like you got in a relationship with someone who's like you. But they never wanted you to kind of get out of more looking to them and being kind of like a child would with a parent, or just more kind of codependent on them. Or making your life more about these things of the world, because that is what they make their life about. And they're always fearful that the people they get in a relationship with will temper their fears and their insecurities, and that they'll heal. And these people probably have some fears and insecurities that they don't want to deal with the truth of, so they don't heal. And then they're always afraid other people will. And they hide. The moon can talk about fears. They're always hiding the fear that people will be illuminated to the truth. That it's a little bit more of being in the relationship and getting in the relationship and staying in the relationship for them for some of these ulterior purposes, but not really authentically doing love. And some high vibe people aren't doing it anymore. I'm going to go invest in people who I do think are more motivated and inspired by love. And the people they'll ultimately be in a relationship with are probably people who also have fear of similar degree in something. and also maybe don't want to listen to their intuition and might be a little more defensive and like to live a little bit more from their mind than their heart. And that would be a just and fair relationship. And that if some people had been kind of stuck and they couldn't decide, maybe now they've gotten in a relationship with someone who really kind of is in the same boat as they are. And that would be a just and fair relationship. It's just that now it is someone who, to whatever degree I talked about these people having some shadowy energies, a little bit of a problem of being more just and fair and might create illusions of being more loving than they really are, and maybe are kind of more immature and a little more indulge himself and can be a little stubborn and bossy or controlling or think it should be more about them. But as long as it looks good and has the ego or the image or the status that they want, they'll be willing to stay in it. But so long as it's someone who's kind of on the same page as them, it's just and fair. What's not just and fair is for someone to know the truth that they are not willing to move forward in a more just and fair and authentic and loving relationship and try to create this illusion that they're like that. But then when they get in the relationship and it gets to that point where the people that they're in a relationship with are ready for it to move to that next level and close out an old cycle and become independent of it, then they're like, no, we stay here. We just do this over and over and over. I've decided. Well, that's not really working cooperatively with someone else who has their own dreams, right? It's more about their dream or what they think is just and fair. So anyway, there you go, Gemini. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.